there's one thing having a player that you had in your 20s and being excelling for you, in which he did, Dortmund, and then when he's 33. Now, he's a great finisher and a fabulous footballer, Aubameyang. I don't know. My only concern is that Jurgen Klopp never went after him. Jurgen Klopp never chose to go after him.
And why is he the barometer?
Well, he worked with him a lot. And
I just wanted to ask.
No, it's a fair point. It's a good question. But Jurgen never went for him. He was never interested in taking him. And he was brilliant for Klopp as well.
Could you see him working out at Chelsea?
Well, if Chelsea play a counter-attack style, which Chelsea did create a lot of chances last year, and Lukaku didn't take enough, nor did Timo Werner. Now, Aubameyang can do that. He is a good finisher. So if he's having if Thomas Tuchel wants to play a certain way, which he does, is to counter and punish teams for a bit of, their movement of their team is always exceptional, and then have a clinical finisher, I could see Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang getting goals.
Okay, so there could be an incoming. Could there be an outgoing as well?
Yes, there could be an outgoing. Christian Pulisic, Newcastle keen, only if Chelsea give the green light to the transfer. Question marks at the moment over whether Thomas Tuchel trusts the American winger. Just hasn't really made that visceral impact that Chelsea fans were hoping he would make. Roma also keen, talks of a swap deal with Nicolo Zaniolo. However, it seems at this stage it's wait and see whether Chelsea give it the green light, which could be related to whether they can bring in reinforcements. Obviously a good bench option.
All right. And West Ham, what about them? What are they thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Made an approach for Memphis Depay at Barcelona. Barca willing to let him go on a free, more just to get his wages off the books. He's got a year left on his deal. The former Manchester United wide man. West Ham already got heaps of attacking, forward-thinking players. Meanwhile, huge holes in their defence, and midfield reinforcements also needed. Yet it seems to be the transfer approach at London Stadium is just buy even more attacking.
This must frustrate Man United fans of how he never performed to the level.
Yeah.
I mean, he went to Lyon. He was unbelievable at Lyon, Depay. Done brilliant. Excelled. And, he's even played, he's done really well at Barcelona. And they didn't really want to let him go. But obviously there are conditions at the club need to be sorted out.
Just another one of the players on that very, very long list of people who've got worse at Old Trafford.
28? It's about 28,
He's
29?
late 20s,
yeah, 28. Still got a lot of football in him.
Yeah, not a bad signing, but I say West Ham already quite a few
it's
players
funny,
in
isn't
those
it?
positions.
For ages and ages, we've been talking about they need to find someone else to help out Mikel Antonio. We're so reliant, and then suddenly this summer they've just gone, let's just go for it.
Yeah.
But obviously it must mean that they have to ship a few players out.
To be honest, Said Benrahma, this was supposed to be the time when he was going to come good. I was at London Stadium for the game against Man City. If you're still being kept out of the team by Manuel Lanzini, who's been a fantastic servant to West Ham, but he's still being kept out of the team by him. That wasn't supposed to be the script. He signed 18 months ago for the Hammers, and he really hasn't pushed on at all. Came off the bench at the weekend, was terrible. I think there is talk around the club.
If you don't treat him well, then that's what happens.
Is this unfair to say?
As a former Brentford player, as you say, Ben Ramos.
I'm going to pose a question here. Is this unfair to say that David Moyes excels with players that are very productive, as in what they do? Their game is based on the easy part of the game of keeping the ball, moving it, being good athletes. It seems that every time he buys a technical player, it doesn't quite seem to work out for him. So is that unfair to say that?
I think it is, because honestly, Manuel Lanzini has had a resurgence under David Moyes. It looked like his West Ham career was over after a bad injury severely hampered him, but he's one of the most technical players I've ever watched. There's nothing about him. He's tiny, he's really lightweight, but he's flourished under Moyes. I think and he's preferred him, and all West Ham fans have been looking at it thinking, why? Benrahma was supposed to be the one to push on, particularly when Lingard left.
Okay, so Memphis Depay, Barcelona, could be heading to West Ham. Has anything been said about Barcelona in the papers today? Because they are a fascinating club.
Yeah, there is loads of stuff on it. Karen Brady's column in The Sun, particularly good. I like the headline as well. Las Chamblas. Once proud club's glorious reputation is destroyed. A good bit by Sid Lowe in The Guardian, Race Against Time as well, which goes into a bit more detail. But Karen Brady basically making the point that this mammoth club are £1 billion in debt, yet this summer they still managed to sign Frank Kessie, Robert Lewandowski, Rafinha, Andreas Christensen, Jules Koundé. splashing the cash, around 127 million those players cost, not to mention the wages as well. They're working at a net loss of around 500 million pounds. The numbers just don't stack up, and it's scary for the future of the club.
It is scary, but the numbers you mentioned there, that they spent more than that on Coutinho alone. You know, they spent 142 million euros,
which
on
is why
one
they're
player.
Yes,
they're in this mess and huge, incredible wages, but they also bought Griezmann for over 100 million. They bought Dembele of over 100 million euros. You know, even though they're spending a lot now, all the them players put together were the fees of the ones, you know, just one Coutinho, one Dembele, one, you know, who was the third one I mentioned?
Griezmann.
Yeah,
three of them. They're spending that. They were spending that on one player.
I still the argument or the process is, or the thought process, is that even that might be the case, but an improvement on a really, really bad situation or really bad management is still bad management, and they're trying to speculate to accumulate. The feeling is they're trying to fill the void left by Messi, and that's not just on the pitch, but because they were so marketable. Now there's 54,000 average crowds in the Nou Camp, down from like sellout 90,000. They're in real trouble, and it's scary because they're just mortgaging bits and pieces off left, right and centre, merchandising, broadcasting revenues.
Well, TV is worth 50 odd million, isn't it? For I think nearly 55, 59 million, something like that.
But they're mortgaging it all off. They're selling bits of it to feast now, but the fear is there will be famine later.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, worrying times for them. What about Nottingham Forest? Because the fever for Premier League anticipation must be hot for Premier League football returning to the City Ground.
Far more of a feel-good factor at the City Ground than there is in Barcelona, that's for sure. The Times, a City at fever pitch as 23-year wait ends. That's by Charlotte Dunker. And Daily Mail, it's all new to us. It's pure excitement by Ian Ladyman. And this is, of course, Nottingham Forest welcoming West Ham United to the City Ground on Sunday in their first Premier League home game for 23 years. It's hard to fathom. I was speaking to lots of Forest fans in the week, journalists who cover the club as well, and the excitement is palpable. The only approach seems to be from David Moyes' or West Ham's approach is obviously going to be keep that quiet for the first half an hour and hope it dies down. But whatever happens in the game, it's a fantastic occasion for the club, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those things as well that, and I forget who it was I heard speaking about it, but and maybe it was someone that we spoke to last week. I cannot remember, unfortunately. That doesn't. Oh, it was Mark Crossley. In fact, when we were talking about it doesn't feel real. You get the fixtures, even then it doesn't feel real. It only starts to feel real when you're actually playing these games. And I'm talking from a Brentford perspective. So with a lot of there's a generation of Forest fans now going to this game, hopefully, who've never obviously experienced top flight football, and are just going to just be in awe of that moment of seeing. It sounds silly to say it because some people here will be listening thinking it's Premier League branding, who cares? But it's little things like that you just are like, oh my God, this is real. This is happening.
I remember going to Forest when they played Spurs, and Ozzy Ardiles and Ricardo Villa played for Spurs. They made their debut. It was Forest away, and the atmosphere was unreal. It was the first time I'd ever been to Forest to watch a game, and it was just fabulous. And you know, there is that part of East Midlands is a real heartbeat of football, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really is.
What do you think, interesting from a football standpoint then for Forest this season? Obviously a disappointing start against Newcastle, not an easy place to go, forgive the obvious cliche there, but it's a difficult first game, especially with the momentum at Newcastle at the moment. Loads of signings made. I think there are about 13-ish signings, but a fantastic manager, one of the most underrated in the country in my opinion, in Steve Cooper. It's a tough ask to get all those players to gel, but it's a move they needed to make. Are you confident they can, all of this momentum and the positive feeling, are you confident across the season, Cass, they can stay up is probably the primary goal?
Yeah, look, you've touched on something that you can put a team together very quickly. But what we saw last week at Newcastle, the only thing I didn't like is that Forest have always felt under Steve Cooper a very attack-minded team, which they clearly tried to defend at St James's Park and hang on and get lots of bodies behind the ball. they've got to do what they did in the Championship and with better players, better quality. So why did you buy? If you've got to be prepared to have a go, and I think you'll see that for us tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the more time, those players will need time to bed in, won't they? I don't think too many of them have been involved so far. So as the weeks go on, you'll hopefully see some of or for Forest fans anyway, the quality that those purchases are going to bring.
And like you mentioned there about the City ground, I just think there's something about that. I don't know what it is. I just have a feeling that could be quite a fortress for Nottingham Forest, and it could all start tomorrow when they kick off that game.
Game Day Breakfast with Natalie Sawyer and Tony Cascarino. Saturday mornings from 6 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.